is masculinity toxic? So the real question isn't whether masculinity is toxic. The question is, are men being conditioned to abandon what makes them men?
The more masculine a man is, the more that he sits and stands in his own values and his own beliefs.
What if masculinity isn't the problem? There are 5 major misconceptions about masculinity that have shaped today's narrative.
Toxic masculinity. It sounds like it was created just to win an argument by someone who's irrational. You go, I don't really understand someone, so I'm just going to say it's bad.
So I haven't seen a world where you do have your strong bloke. Masculinity is one of those things that, if used in the wrong way by the wrong people, absolutely it can be toxic. But masculinity at its fundamentals always been needed.
It seems as if there's not even a good side to masculinity anymore. It seems as if the moment you display a masculine trait, it's all of a sudden instantly labelled as toxic. But you look at what masculine traits are, they are natural progressions in the journey of boys becoming men. It naturally evolves in us because it's how we're wired. The moment it's labelled as toxic, you go, well then what am I? Because that's just a natural progression of me. And anything that slots into anything labelled masculine nowadays seems to automatically, in inverted commas, be. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Men's Collective podcast, the place where real men have real conversations about the real issues. No fluff, no sugarcoating, and definitely no BS. Just straight talk about what it means to be a man in today's world. As always, I'm your host, Wayne Taylor, and joined once again by a panel of men from different backgrounds, different beliefs, but all here with the same reason and the same agenda, which is to challenge the narrative and push men to be better. Jamie, Mikie, Toby, welcome, fellas.
How we doing, lads?
Hey, boys.
Finished off a good week?
Yeah.
Feels good. Feel a bit of deja vu today. It's good.
So this is like take number 47 just to get going.
Guys, we started 3 hours ago if you're listening from home.
Well, welcome nonetheless. Toby, welcome. First time, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome
Very
to the
happy
panel.
to be here.
Good, bud.
forward to
Happy to have you.
See how it goes.
Really, really good. Well, look, today's episode, we continue our hard-hitting series, The War on Masculinity. This is episode number 3. And if you've been following along, you already know that we have not held back at all. In episode 1, thermostats and thermometers, we talked about the difference between men who set the tone for their lives and those who simply react to the world around them. Some men dictate their environment while others are controlled by it. The question was, are you leading or are you being led? Then in episode 2, A Man's Worth, we got real about how men are valued in today's society. A man's worth isn't determined by his potential, his dreams, or his feelings. It's determined by his output, what he produces, what he builds, what he provides. Society may preach equality, but at the end of the day, a broke, weak, or aimless man is invisible. We broke down how men can reclaim their value and stop looking for validation from a world that doesn't care. And that leads us to today, episode number 3, which we're calling Toxic Masculinity. For years, masculinity was synonymous with strength, leadership, and resilience. But somewhere along the way, a new phrase has entered this cultural dictionary, that being toxic masculinity. Depending on who you ask, it's either a necessary critique of outdated male behavior or an all-out attack on what it means to be a man. But what if masculinity isn't the problem? What if the real issue is how it's being misunderstood, mislabeled, or even weaponized? There are 5 major misconceptions about masculinity that have shaped today's narrative, and it's time we take a closer look at them. So today we're going to look at number 1. First one being masculinity is inherently toxic. Society tells us that being strong, competitive, or assertive is automatically harmful. But masculinity isn't toxic. It's neutral. It can be expressed in both positive or negative ways. Strength, leadership, and resilience aren't the problem. The problem is when men lack direction, discipline, and role models. Number 2 out of that top 5 is that masculinity is suppressing emotions. We've been told that a real man doesn't cry, doesn't ask for help, and doesn't show weakness. But true masculinity isn't about emotional suppression. It's about emotional mastery. A strong man doesn't ignore his feelings. He understands them, controls them, and channels them effectively. Number 3 out of that top 5 is that masculinity is oppressive to women. We often hear that masculinity is tied to dominance, control, and patriarchy. Sorry. But look, in its healthy form, masculinity is about protection, provision, and leadership. A great man uplifts and empowers the women in his life. Number 4 out of the top 5 is that masculinity doesn't need to be erased for women to thrive. It needs to be refined, embraced, and properly directed. Number 5 is that masculinity needs to be softened to fit modern society. There's a push for men to be more passive, more agreeable, and more like women. But the world doesn't need softer men. It needs stronger, more disciplined, and more honourable men. Weak men don't make society safer. They make it more chaotic, more lost, and more broken. Being masculine means rejecting help or community. Not true. We've been conditioned to believe that a real man figures it out alone. But the strongest men aren't lone wolves. They build brotherhoods, surround themselves with wisdom, and strengthen those around them. So the real question isn't whether masculinity is toxic. The question is, are men being conditioned to abandon what makes them men? Today, we strip back the labels, challenges, assumptions, and ask the hard questions. So look, before we jump in, a quick reminder, if you're getting the value from all these conversations in this podcast, hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment. These discussions, look, they aren't easy to have, but look, in today's world, and even harder to find. Look, share it. Every subscription, every comment helps us and helps this movement here at Average Joe's moving forward and keeping it alive. To our sponsors, One Life Property, we appreciate you. If you want to support us and this podcast, check out the links in the description and ways to be involved, whether it's through sponsorship, donations, or look, just spreading the word. It all helps. Alrighty, let's get into it. Masculinity, put it simply, is like water. It can be a life-giving force, strong enough to carve mountains, yet gentle enough to nourish growth. It can power entire cities or become destructive flood. But the vessel that holds it determines its impact. In a clean, sturdy container, water is controlled, purposeful, and vital. But in a cracked or rusted vessel, it can leak, stagnate, and even become toxic. Masculinity isn't the problem. It's how it's shaped, directed, and contained. So, is masculinity truly toxic, or is it just misunderstood? Sticking with this series on the war on masculinity, I want to cover these top 5 misconceptions, starting today with number 1, masculinity being inherently toxic. Gents, are you ready?
We are.
Yeah.
Going to upset some people today, mate.
Oh, I'm ready to go. I tell you what, in just preparing for today, I'm like, you know what? It's true. We haven't held back on episode 1 or episode 2, and I have no intention of holding back on episode 3. I hope you guys aren't either.
No.
Like I've said to you every single time, I want you guys to be authentic because this is some real truths, and we're about to get into it. So look, I want to start like we do every week with a yes or no, and then I want to come back to you as to your reasons why. So the question is masculinity toxic? Jamie, yes or no?
Is it toxic?
Yeah.
No.
Mikey, is masculinity toxic?
That could come down to who you vote for, but I'm going to give you a clue and say no.
Toby?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I want to hear your reasons why. I want to say the same. I want to say no, that masculinity is not toxic. Jamie, why?
Because masculinity isn't needed until shit happens. And when shit happens, that's when those masculine men have to stand up and have to take ownership and actually have to step in. You know what I mean? So when things are great, yeah, things can just sort of flow and all the rest of it. But you need to be masculine in certain situations, right? And because you need to put a stop. I'm a big believer that I'd rather a short-term pain for long-term gain rather than, long-term pain, with little gain. So I think that the more masculine a man is, the more that he sits and stands in his own values and his own beliefs and his own ability to actually step up when it's needed. Yeah? So
I like it. Mikey, I asked you if it was toxic. You said no. Why is that?
Mate, honestly, it just sounds like it was the word toxic masculinity. It sounds like it was created just to win an argument by someone who's irrational. You go, I don't really understand someone, so I'm just going to say it's bad, and that's the end of it.
And social media's done a great job at allowing,
isn't it,
people with dumb voices that shouldn't be heard, and they're heard about that very thing.
And not just even social media, into our politicians and every aspect of society. It's insane how far it's gone. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you say today, mate, because you're the next generation who's
that's it. We've grown up.
Yeah, well, you've been born with it. We've seen it roll out.
Yeah. It's been pushed on us for decades. So I haven't seen a world where you do have your strong blokes. But so I strongly disagree. But I also agree with the fact it can be weaponized. And masculinity is one of those things that if used in the wrong way by the wrong people, absolutely it can be toxic. But masculinity at its fundamentals is always been needed. We live in an awesome, like I'd say, a Western society where men, if we hadn't done what we've done for centuries, we would not have what we have, the luxuries that we have. And a lot of people have taken that for granted, and they're like, all right, well, we've achieved perfection. Like, we don't have to struggle for food, shelter, survival, and we've achieved it now. Let's just take it for granted, and we're going to pick it apart because we think we can do it better. But we've done a pretty good job, and that's completely been forgotten about, which I think is crazy.
I think the problem is men don't know who they are. You know, they've been told who they are. And I think that that's one of the problems why there's so much mental health issues out there is because they're not, you know, people go through this spiritual journey and they're trying to find their authentic self, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's happening to men is that they're not actually being their authentic self. They're being the watered down version. They're being the version that they know they're not actually striving and driving and you know, and saying the things that they believe in and being the people that they know that they should be. And I think that is what's playing in the back of people's minds sometimes, you know? Like, and I think the toxic masculinity, as you were saying, is that you're going, okay, cool, I don't understand this, I don't like the behavior, but here's something that can give me an advantage over you. You know, like I hear people talking about narcissistic behavior. Yeah. When I was growing up, I had no idea what narcissistic behavior was. You know what I mean? Now, all of a sudden, everyone's exes, they're all narcissists.
Yeah.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? Oh, no, my ex, she did this. Or, you know, and it's the same for guys and girls, you know, and it's always the way is that if you're looking in a particular way and you're going, oh, I can add that trait to this. It's all about where it comes from. You know, it's all about the desire behind it. You know, if you're being masculine and you're telling your family this is what we should do, yeah, you're trying to be a leader, yeah, you can either see that and you can trust in the family unit and go, okay, you're our leader, we're gonna follow you. Or you can turn around and you could go, you're trying to control me. Yeah? Now, do we do that? Like, is that the way that kids should be? Could you imagine if you're like, don't do that because you're going to get hurt? Stop trying to control me. Your kid turns around and says that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
I think you made a good point too when it comes to masculinity, right? It seems as if there's not even a good side to masculinity anymore. It seems as if the moment you display a masculine trait, it's all of a sudden instantly labeled as toxic. But you look at what masculine traits are, they are natural progressions in the journey of boys becoming men because it's wired in us. It just naturally evolves in us because it's how we're wired. So it's in some way you are crushing or putting a roadblock into a natural evolution or a natural progression in how boys become men. So the moment it's labeled as toxic, you go, well, then what am I? Because that's just a natural progression of me. Anything that slots into anything labeled masculine nowadays seems to automatically, in inverted commas, be misogynist. It's like you can't even display a normal trait of being a man with, oh, you're misogynistic. No, I'm just, I'm a man. Like it's just, but that in itself is now shut down. I saw probably about two months ago, good friends of ours went through a separation and the separation's now fully legit. It's totally over. The whole marriage has crumbled. And I still follow them both on social media, Facebook and Instagram. And she had put this Instagram story up and talking about misconceptions and misunderstandings and things like that. She puts up this post on this story, and she said, I was just in the shopping centre. I've just had my trolley and I've come up to the back of my car and the bags were heavy and I'm putting the bags into the boot of my car. And she goes, and yes, they were heavy, and so, you know, it wasn't that I couldn't do them, but they were quite heavy. And she said there was a guy 1 or 2 cars up watching me, and he said, oh, do you need a hand? And then this is her telling the story, and she goes, I had to shut that toxic masculinity down and then continue to, and I'm thinking, why is it that just straight out, see,
Someone trying
that's,
to help.
yeah, that's not toxic masculinity. That's what they call chivalry. But that's just natural chivalry. That's just a guy being a gentleman. It's not that he is suggesting that she is weak or suggesting that he is, more stronger.
Yeah.
It's just a simple, he could see that she was struggling. He goes, hey, do you need a hand? And she was like, oh my God, like on this, the way they do it, like the selfies in the car. And oh my God, I had to shut down that toxic masculinity. I'm thinking, you don't want to know the real thoughts I was thinking.
Enjoy being single forever.
Yeah.
Part of me just, I just thinking, are you for real? Like guys can't even be gentlemen anymore. And it's instant shutdown. Talk about a misunderstanding.
It's a lost art.
It's a lost art.
It is.
Well,
Being
it's
a
not
gentleman.
lost because guys start to do it and
That's
people
right,
turn
yeah,
around and
actually.
go, what, you think I can't do this?
Yeah.
You're like, wow, sorry for helping.
Yeah. There's a lot of double standards in that, isn't there? Because it's, there is still stuff that they do want you to do.
Yeah.
It's
When it's convenient.
Yeah.
well, if you went out on a date with, look, most of us have been tied up for a fair few years, but Toby, if you go on a date and do you split the bill 50-50? Do you let her pick it up because you're a modern man?
No. That's the trickiest part is we're like, for example, in that case where she was able to post, oh, that's toxic masculinity. Whereas if he had have posted, his opinion would not have been celebrated or gained the traction that her opinion would have had. That's where I see the toxic overlap. Not necessarily one's toxic, but both of them aren't even having the conversation about where's the middle ground here. It's like, nah, you're toxic. The man goes, well, I don't want this fight. Steps away from it. Yeah. But if I'm going on a date, I obligated, it's my instinct to be a gentleman, to pay for the bill, to pick her up in the car, to open the door, all those kinds of things, to dress well, to make sure I smell good. That's part of being a man.
You didn't make sure you smelled good today before you came here, buddy.
Oh, I didn't know you sniffed me.
Did the sneaky sniff.
Did the boy
Bit of fresh meat comes in, Wayne's like, ooh.
All the new guys get sniffed. No, but you're exactly right there, mate. And it's interesting to see your generation do that kind of thing because from our generation, seeing how things are with so many dating shows and stuff on TVs now, it seems as if women are crying out for all forms of equality. So then when it comes to splitting a bill, why isn't it equal then?
Yeah.
Because chivalry within us as men says, no, well, that's what we designed it. It comes natural to us. No, I'm the provider. We're out for dinner. I've got this. But it's shut down. And that's what I think the misconception is about masculinity itself before we even get into what's a good, a bad, positive, negative, or what they're calling toxic. There seems to be a misunderstanding on what masculinity is. Yeah. So let's stick on that for a bit then. What would be your definition of what masculinity or what a masculine man, but what is it? What is masculinity?
Well, I think it comes down to like our core concepts, which is what we spoke about before, which was being the leader, the protector, and the provider. That's what we're there to do, and that's what you're about. It's also like it's happened a lot for me now. Later, is like thinking about being a man of your word and being able to be taken at face value and stuff like that. So doing what you say you're going to do and backing things up and looking after the people that you kind of love, sort of thing. So I think that's what masculinity is, and also being prepared to step up, which is part of the protector side of things, when it's needed to put yourself on the line. People whinge about how much they hate the police
until they need them. Yeah,
until someone's breaking into your house.
You're spot on.
Do you know what I mean? But that is an action that is stopping something bad happening. And that's the way I see masculinity, is that it's someone stepping up to stop something bad happening.
When you say that about the police, you're exactly right. It's like be the police when we need you to be the police.
Yeah.
Other than that state of our lives, but because you see it, and I'm not trying to create a certain type of demographic here, but you see it especially with drug dealers and guys that live this life of crime and that kind of thing. It seems it's all about hate the police. The police are crap and the police, all this kind of stuff. But a drugger gets broken into, who's going to call? the police. It's like he's going against the very thing that he's hated for so long. And
He's not calling Ghostbusters.
but it's true. But it's so when you look at masculinity, it's like society expects masculinity to have an off switch. Be masculine when we need you to be. If we're going to war, step up and be aggressive and be strong and be.
Well, the draft is still a thing.
Actually, yeah, it's actually an interesting question. Is drafting still a thing?
Yeah, it can be if they choose it.
Not in this country right now, but there are countries where drafting is a thing.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, well then, with defining masculinity in regards to it being toxic, is it just the women that are saying that masculinity is toxic, or do you think there's men out there that go, "Oh, it's toxic masculinity"? Yeah. Do you think it's men too?
I think there's some men that have been, the men that have been told what to think.
We haven't thought for ourselves. There's a lot of men from my years, like probably under 25, that don't know what it's like to be a real man. Like for me, being masculine is someone that takes risks, takes radical responsibility for their own lives, someone that's stepping out of the box when they're not being told to step out of the box. Like all these factors of just leading your own life kind of thing. If you step back from that and start letting other people tell you what to do, unfortunately our narrative is being masculine is toxic, so you're not going to lead a masculine life. So it's a lot of blokes my age just being happy with doing what they're told kind of thing. I think that's where the breakdown will be, but it's also vice versa. Like for me, I see it so clear now of that's a feminine looking bloke or a feminine acting bloke. I would consider myself fairly masculine. Same with my friends. I would consider them all masculine. But you can see that difference. And I think the difference is falling apart so much now that it's just night and day, where we might be the generation to flip it in a way of like toxic masculinity may stop here or it may get worse kind of thing. Like it's
actually a good thought. I haven't thought of that.
It's like a handicap, isn't it? Like you're placing on the competition. But in this quest for equality, we've now shifted to equality of outcome. And regardless of what you put into it, I deserve the same at the other side of it. How do you handicap the competition? You take away all of what's good in them with the assertiveness, that get up and go about them. You go, no, that's bad, mate. You can't do that. That's the only way to win.
Yeah.
You know what else I think it might be? It's guys who can't actually go out and find a partner themselves. So they're aligning more with the feminine, trying to get closer to them, being their buddy.
It's like the dude that took drama at school.
And try to
yeah.
and trying to slide. So rather than having the blokes back and going, oh, no, it's not too much. Like, and let's not go over the top where there's like, yes, there is people who go out and use their power, their physicality, that sort of stuff to get an advantage. That's not cool. Yeah. But also that might be happening because there's not the other bloke who's actually going to go, mate, you're misbehaving and I'm going to step up and stop that.
That's what it was in the old days, man.
Absolutely. Yep. So I think there is a part of it where, because let's be honest, that's one of our urges is to find partners, is to breed, is to, spread. You'll see, yeah. So,
plural.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah. Seeds. But they're going, so I can't actually. I'm not going to find a mate being who I am. So I'm just going to work my way in and be. Let's see if we can be friends first, and then I'll be. Which, yeah.
You're always going to have friends. That's the weird part. Like, which friends do you choose to mate with? Well, no, you choose if someone's your mate first, and then you progress that way. But going through a friend, you're going to have 10 different friends at once. How are you going to choose which one becomes your mate? You've got too many options, and blokes will just don't give us too many options. We're not that clever.
No.
I guess that raises a good question with your generation, Toby, because we're 40s to mid 40s, and you being so young at 21. What's the concepts for us, I think, that we think women find attractive must be totally different to what your generation of women find attractive. So when it comes to, say, women, young girls looking for potential life partners, because they're the ages that you guys are at, and you're not there to muck around, you're at that, So do women your age now?
He's too young, mate.
I was married at 20.
Take your time, mate. Take your time.
No, but
I'm saying nothing.
To me, it depends who you're advertising to.
well, what are the masculine traits that girls your age find attractive?
Well, and then I also think it's not that just my age, it's just their mindsets in general. For me, I recently this year found a partner, and I think I'm going to spend the rest of my life with her. Like, I love this girl. But for me, she's been born in like a Christian household, had very strong values her whole life. Like, her dad's a very strong masculine man. Whereas a lot of women have lost that, unfortunately, from their fathers, because they've been told, all right, hold on, don't be as masculine as your father. Now, there's just this whole demographic of women that wouldn't find my traits attractive, so they're not the ones I'm advertising to, I guess. And I found that in a lot of Australian Sheilas in particular, like, they're not the kind of women I want to spend the rest of my life with. Whereas my girlfriend, she's been in Australia for 1 year. She's from South Africa, like, and that's who I'm advertising to. But it's a cultural thing
I've got
for
a
me.
South African girl too. So
Yeah. Oh well, we're clued on.
She's good.
Yeah.
I'll give her a shot at the title.
So you reckon it's worth the transition? Go South African?
I wouldn't live there.
No. Yeah, I've heard that too. I've done
Open the borders there.
They're just after green cards, lads. That's all.
Yeah,
That's
that's it.
You've raised another good point there, Toby, when you said that her background, her upbringing has experienced a very masculine father, which is great for her.
Yeah.
Because I guess to some degree that then puts the vision in her head of what she's looking for in a partner, which goes to show though, because masculinity is so frowned upon and seen as toxic nowadays, it's like we are starting to create a generation of kids your age that aren't embracing masculinity. So it's a wonder if the generation beyond you guys, when you guys become parents and you guys are 40,
Yeah.
if you guys have had masculinity and masculine traits preached towards you of being so toxic, it's going to crush you guys. Meaning that when you guys get older and you guys have kids, the relationship between kid to father is going to lack. So you're saying your girlfriend's experienced it now because her dad's very masculine. Lucky for you.
Yeah.
But your generation that aren't experiencing that, which is going to be the majority, it's their kids that I guess we have to worry about.
Well, we have to worry about it, but then we also have to set the example. So no matter what, like, till the day I die, I'm going to set the example of being a strong masculine man, because that's what I want my sons to be like. If more men made that decision of, hold on, I'm not going to just get pushed over by what the media and what other people are telling me, I'm just going to live instinctively as a man. If more blokes start making that decision, then we might see the family unit, your nuclear family, I guess, come back, that kind of thing. Because that's worked all throughout history. That's how it's been. You spend the rest of your life with one woman and you raise a family and you pass on those traits. And now some of those traits aren't getting passed on. And you're absolutely right that if our generation just is happy to say, oh, masculinity is toxic, we'll put that to the side, we're going to have a bunch of young blokes that don't know how to be men.
You said something interesting there. You're saying things haven't been, like there's some masculine traits that haven't been passed on. Because I've known you for a fair while now, right? Now, in getting to know you, I do nothing but brag about you. I think you're actually a really good kid. And I've said that right from the start. You're a good kid, right? So I'm interested to know, for you to say something like that, there are some masculine traits that haven't been passed on or not getting passed on. What are some that come to mind that you look now and go, God, I wish this had been passed on or should be passed on, but it isn't? What are some that come to mind?
One of them for me is be the bloke that takes risks. Like, that's your biggest one. That's your sense of adventure. A bloke thrives in adventure. Like, if we don't have that in our lives, especially young, we're going to lose that sense of wanting to improve, wanting to do better, wanting to see the world be better. If we're not taking that step of risk and doing something that we've never done before, we'll just keep living the same life. And you've got to be that guy that takes risks. And that's something I've recently kind of discovered in the last probably 2 years of my life. Like, I moved out of home and I went to Brisbane and had a completely different life in sales, where my job was to take risks. If I didn't knock on that door, I wasn't going to get paid and I'd get sacked. So I've different culture, I guess, in sales, but being taught to take risks, a lot of blokes aren't doing that. They're happy just to do what they're told. Go to uni, get a trade, study this, like do what you're told kind of thing. Whereas there's a whole other, like, yeah, they're good pathways for some people, But some people aren't going to be that. Some people need to be entrepreneurs, the guy that starts a podcast, someone that might go out west and be a jackaroo, those kind of things. You're not being told to find a new path anymore and take that risk to find that new path. So it's very like, you just see the same person over and over again in a different shell, in my opinion. Just my opinion, though.
Do you think this is our fault?
In regards to not
It's okay, don't
not-
take it personally.
No, well, okay. No,
is it not your fault?
yeah, you're like, if you,
We're blaming on one guy.
yeah, I was going to say,
Everything's your fault, mate.
ask my wife, it's my fault. Yes, dear, I'm sorry.
My constant hope it's his fault. Yeah, no, it's definitely your
You know,
fault.
she said, yes, all
Didn't
of
even
it.
need to know the question. She just said yes. Sorry, Pip.
But when you think about toxic masculinity, that word is typically used by a woman to describe men, right? So have we as men created a generation of women that have been hurt that much by our behaviour that they now think
that's a
we're
good
all
question.
inherently bad?
From my perspective looking at it, you've just done what you've been told. This whole time you've been just trying to make them happy. That's your job as a man, just to make the woman happy. And you've said, all right, we're just going to, if that's what you don't want us to do, we won't do it.
Yeah.
That kind
Well,
of thing. So
look,
it might be in the case of you just allowed it not to progress.
men's behaviours steadily declined over the last couple of generations, right? Like you look at going back in the old days, you watch the old shows and you see men would hold their tongue around a woman, they would control their emotions, they would be very chivalrous. They would be very attentive. If there's a lady in the room, you have certain behaviour and you don't change that for anything. And we would all keep each other under wraps on that. Now you fast forward, which is why they had a gentleman's bar, right? There was a place where only men could go, where you're allowed to spit and swear and do whatever you want and fight and carry on. But under no circumstances would you do that in front of a lady. Now it's steadily gotten worse and worse where it's okay to do that in front of a lady. It's okay for ladies to do it. It's gotten so far where our behaviour has slipped. And now we must have hurt these women, right? Someone doesn't just turn around and go, you know, you being strong and assertive is a bad thing. Because like you say, in a sales job, you don't get the job unless you are strong and assertive. It's literally what you're there to be. But now it's a bad thing. It's only a bad thing to someone if they've experienced the raw end of it. Mm. If they've only experienced the good part of strongness and assertiveness, then it wouldn't be toxic, would it?
I think you've brought up an amazing thought on, you look at all those things, assertiveness, strength, all these traits that for us they cry out of us, or they want to just be expressed so naturally because it's what's in us. And what's interesting is that, again, we call it masculinity. The world's calling it toxic masculinity. But you brought about something quite interesting there, because if you see those traits displayed now in women, you see women become risky, you see women become show any form of aggression, you see women do masculine things. The world words that or calls that empowered. You see a woman do things like that and they go, oh, women's empowerment. Look at her, legend, she's doing this. Hey, all for it, I'm not against that. But when a woman does it, we call it women's empowerment. Man does it, we go, oh, wow, this is dangerous. Yeah. Check out this bloke, he's uncontrollable. He's toxic. Why the hell are we doing that?
It's dangerous.
Exactly that. Why do we do that? A woman does it, hey, empowered. Man does it, whoa, back off. DV orders, who's this bloke?
Yeah. I just can imagine the dude that slept with 1,000 women in a day.
Yeah.
Like he'd
The
be
male
very
version of Bonnie
tight, but
Blue.
yeah.
Bonnie Blue would have been.
That would not be cool, right? Not that it's cool for her, but it wouldn't be cool for a bloke to do it.
So why then? Why do you think that when a woman does it, it's seen as empowerment, but for a man dangerous? It's the same traits though. Just
the narrative you've been pushed, I guess.
Yeah, you've been taught.
Let's also be honest. Men can do more damage. Mm. Do you know what I mean? Like it's men are in domestic violence relationships, but no one takes it seriously because they're like, oh, what, you got a little slap. You know what I mean? But men can do damage. And that is one thing I'm totally against is domestic violence. Like, do you know what I mean? And I think that's not something that should happen because women can get hurt. But it also comes back to guys not speaking up as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, should we say something? Shouldn't we say something? So it's actually the guys who's taken on, oh yeah, no, we won't say anything, we won't do much or anything else. That's actually helped embolden the people that are going to take advantage and do the wrong thing to actually hurt these women. You know, that's why I'm scared about guys not being masculine, because society is only as good as the person beside you. You know, it's only as good as those people. So if one people are doing bad things and you're letting them get away with it, that's the start of a demise, like your society demising. Yeah. You know? So I think that there's risks involved with it, yeah, but guys have to actually speak up and go, mate, what you're doing is not on. Yeah?
You're talking about within a domestic violence situation?
Correct, yeah. Or having that time where you go, because that's what happened. And this is the reason why we do what we do. It's about guys talking to each other, because I can talk to you about emotional stuff and you're not going to judge me for it. You're going to sit there and go, yeah.
We won't tell you.
Yeah, you won't tell me.
In secret.
I'll talk to Mike about you.
But
Yeah.
but you'll put it in a logical situation. Do you know what I mean? We had the conversation like that. I'm going to go, oh, do you mind if I call you out on something? Like, you know, you have those conversations and it's healthy and you can get that stuff off your chest. Do you know what I mean? You can't really do that with your partner.
Be clever and selective with
Because-
who you tell.
Because, and some people might label this as toxic, but I don't want to create fear, worry, or doubt in my partner. I want to protect her. Now, if I have that, I'll talk to my mates about it, and my mates will have my back, and that gives you the strength to be able to go through. Do you know what I mean? This is why we speak up. This is why we talk. This is why we get together. This is why what we're doing right now is so important, because, yes, there's so many families out there that actually don't have dads. Yeah? There's so many kids out there that don't have dads, and we think that that's normal. Well, the results are fucking in, and it's not good for society when people are raised without dads.
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
Which shows the flaw in the system itself, because I know we've mentioned this before. It shows how flawed our system is. You see a breakdown within the family unit, the kids, not going to say instantly or automatically, but 99% of the time, straight to the mother. So you see now, and I think men are born, in Western cultures, I think, the balance is not perfect, but there's a slight misbalance where there are more men that get born than women, right? So you've got a more male-birthed society in a highly percentage raised by women. Mate, we all know women do an amazing job because feminine traits within when it comes to parenting, some of them are absolutely amazing. Compassion and all full respect to them. There are some amazing mums out there, and what women have to offer within a marriage and within a family is extremely important. Is it as important or what the men? Look, let's not get into if it's as important. But to take away the masculine input into the raising of the kids, that's the flaw in our society. That's the stuff up we've done. Because now you've got more boys getting birthed into society, getting raised by single parent homes, which are predominantly women now. So you've got men, young boys, being raised into society with predominantly feminine input, feminine upbringing, feminine direction. That in itself is the issue, and we wonder why boys are becoming feminine. It's a flaw in the system.
We wonder why boys are voting for the Greens.
Well, so, and we talk about it like men's mental health, right? So our belief is that if we build stronger men, there'll be less men's mental health issues. So you tell me what's going to create a less mental health, yeah? You be a strong man, build your values, yeah? Protect, provide, and lead. Is that going to create a man with weak mental health or strong mental health. Now, you find a man where his relationship breaks down, he's worked his whole life, and most of his wealth has been taken away from him, and the things that he loves the most are getting taken away from him. Yeah? And he feels like society, as soon as he speaks up and says, this isn't fair, you're being toxic. I got treated wrong. This is the wrong thing that's happening to me. Yeah? Shut up and take it. Now, you tell me whether that guy is going to have strong mental health or weak mental health. So this is why it's so important for us to build stronger men, so that way, even when bad things happen, they can stand on their own 2 feet and go, no, what I'm doing is actually right, and who I am is actually right. And actually having other guys go out there and go, you know what, mate, you are doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
You are a good man. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Take a step back to what we're saying about domestic violence. You mentioned, Jamie, within a relationship. I think I might have sent it to you, Mike, maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I was shocked by the interview with that guy, the dark guy that does I can't remember his name, Stephen someone, I can't remember, but he had that young lady on, he was doing an interview with her. He was talking about should there ever be a situation where a man should hit a woman, and she was like, no way, should not this, and blah blah blah, and no way. And he's like, oh, but what if the woman's beating up on him? Can he hit back? No, he shouldn't. This blah blah. And then he goes, okay, so but for the woman to hit the man, is that okay? And she goes, well, yeah, he probably deserved it. And it makes you go,
Amazing, isn't it?
this is the double standard that is set now in society. Because look, when it comes to domestic violence, obviously I'm by no means for it. I'm not against aggression in men, and I've said this many, many times before, and I always say I'm not against men being aggressive. Men need to control aggression, right? Because again, someone breaks into your house, oh, don't be aggressive. Trust me, I'm going to be aggressive, right? So it's not a matter of men can't be aggressive, it's controlled aggression.
Well, you need strong men to protect you against bad men, right? And you lost me before I actually thought you were talking about the Bill Cosby video. So I was like,
You take things so far, dude.
sorry. Shouldn't apologise.
Yeah,
Don't
dude,
apologise.
That's right. We have a rule now on the podcast. No one says sorry. I get that. No, all good. But I think domestic violence. When I saw that thing, I sent it to Mike. I said, "Check this out." Like, just the double standard that exists, mate. It just blew me. Like, just should men hit a woman? Of course not. But should she hit him? Well, if she does, he probably deserves it.
But there's double standards in all of it, right? Like, even when you look at the situation with divorce and children going which ways and the percentages, well, why, if men and women are equal and they can do the same job and in every possible way they're the same, why would a woman be more likely to get the kids than the man? Why would the man have to give up more percentage-wise to her? If you're equal, it's 50-50. Why would I need to give my wife, if we broke up, 80% of everything and then pay child support? Why? She's a strong, independent woman. She can do it herself.
If that's the equality,
You know, if you look at equality, we look at it like that, whereas that's not how it goes, right?
If looking at masculine traits, right? If masculinity itself is so harmful, then why is it that men do desire men that are strong, confident, dominant? Why are women desiring it, and why is it attractive if it's so bad and so harmful?
Well, it is what women are attracted to, right? It's not the best looking guy. It's not the one with the most money. It's the one who, when they first meet, it's the guy that's confident, the guy that leads the room.
The one that can take care of the household.
The guy that looks like he's the alpha in the room. He looks like he's in control. They're the one that the women are attracted to most of the time.
Well, I just wrote down a quick thought when you spoke about being aggressive and which situations it's appropriate to be aggressive. And for me, that's when you hit the line of, here's my values, here's where I disagree with what you're doing. I'm going to be aggressive to make sure it doesn't go past there. And what we need to see from men, as all of us, is just start to agree more on where that line is. And if this topic of toxic masculinity is always thrown out there, it's the improvements just not going to be seen. We need to say, all right, here's masculinity. Here's how we define it. Here's how we live masculine lives. Can we agree on this line? If it goes past that, just put your foot down and don't allow people to jump over that line. And that's where you become unmasculine, in my opinion, is when you let people walk over the top of you. It's not about when you say step up when you're needed. I would almost like disagree in the fact of it's step up always, even when you're not needed. Just, you don't have a choice. You're always a man. If you're going to just only be there when you need to be there, no one wants us there in this society. No one wants a man around. So we just have to show up anyway. That's our job.
Yep.
You think when you hear the term toxic masculinity, do you think that term itself, do you think it's being used to demonise just the negative aspects of male behaviour or the positive ones as well?
All of them. Any that someone might not like.
Yeah.
As I said, a lot of the time it's used as just an advantage.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a trump card for people. Oh, you're being toxically masculine. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're a part of the patriarchy, or like.
You're one of those ones that listen to Andrew Tate, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's like they chuck that out there and you're like, well, what do I do? Yeah, I listen to some of his message, not all of it. Same way as I listen to everyone else's message. I pick what I like and what I don't like. But everything that I like in a masculine, I guess, information of the content that I consume, very masculine. But if they're saying, no, all of it is bad, well then what do? You're kind of just stuck in this weird spot of, I can't win an argument.
But that's it. That is literally the trump card for I can't win an argument. It's you're taking all reason away from it with an unreasonable
it's unlogical.
statement.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's what do you reckon true like toxic masculinity is? Like I kind of picture like 12 guys in spandex on a bike going for a soy latte.
Yeah.
I think they call that the lack of masculinity.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
That's what happens when we don't have blokes around.
The fact that they're tight.
Well, I think
Cut the circulation off. They're like the modern day bricks.
Tight spandex. 3 of those are women, actually.
Yeah. The handsome
woman.
ones.
Define a woman now. Oh, God. Okay, James,
That's
sorry,
next
mate.
week's topic. What's a woman?
What is a woman? Good on Matt Walsh on.
well,
Apologies if you cycle, by the way. My brother-in-law does.
Don't say sorry, Mike.
well, there's also toxic femininity too, isn't it? Like, we're better than you guys, and all that sort of stuff. So it's actually been like disrespectful and like using your power for an advantage and stuff like that. So, but as I said, it's for me, masculinity is where it's coming from, where it's like coming back to those 3 basics: being a leader, being a provider, and being a protector. Like, that's not toxic, yeah? But if you're using it for, but all those 3 things as well is external, where you're trying to benefit the people around you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think toxic masculinity, the problem is when it's actually you're doing it for your own gain and you're not giving a shit about anyone else. Yeah.
So is it that we do what we do, right? If you're a good man who's masculine and you do what you do, is it that maybe a woman doesn't understand why you do what you do? She only sees the action and not the reason behind it. So she sees you be assertive in a situation, doesn't like the outcome, and goes, you're being toxic because I don't like what you're doing. Regardless of why you're doing it, there could be a good reason. And again, like you say with your kids, don't go and play in the middle of the road. Well, you're just telling me what to do. That's toxic masculinity. Well, no, I'm telling you because I don't want you to get hit by the car that's coming by. There's a good reason for it, but they don't see that reason.
I would even go as far to say, in trying to answer the question, what is toxic masculinity? I think my definition, my interpretation, however you want to word it, I would debunk it and say there's no such thing. I think there's toxic people because I think men are naturally masculine women are naturally feminine. The problem within both of those is that out of the men and the women, there are people that are toxic. You can't, I don't believe it, and that's why I think, in my introduction at the start, it's been a cultural shift in just our diction and our wordings and in what we say that we've even come up with the term toxic masculinity. It should just be there are toxic men just as much as there are toxic women. Men are masculine, women are feminine. If you've been a dick or you've been a bitch, you're toxic, regardless of what is between your legs. You know what I mean? So I think it's not a matter of. I think we've joined two words that aren't even coherent to each other. They don't belong together. Toxic and masculinity. The fact that we're talking about it is because of the fact that it's been introduced. And I think it's in outright stupidity that the term even exists.
So a lot of the people that would talk about toxic masculinity would also be the same people that say that gender is fluid. So is it that you've actually removed the basics of women are feminine, men are masculine?
The woke mind virus.
And now you've made this kind of, I don't even know what you call it, like a smorgasbord of you can be anything and everything and there is no reality. Yeah. You've lost the grounding for men are masculine, women are feminine. You can go to the golf course on Ladies' Day and see that.
It's true.
Really? Yeah. Huh?
Got to be a bit light-hearted, right?
So then why? Okay,
Got to give the editor something to do.
the editor something to do. Samuel is ready. Okay, so looking at masculinity, then taking the word toxic away for a moment, and looking at masculinity in itself. Why do women, especially today, why do women complain about the lack of masculine men while simultaneously attacking masculinity itself?
I think it's because both sides, men included, aren't taking the time to understand, like you said before, why we are both doing what we're doing. Understand each other's narratives and why you both decide to do the things you do. If you ask a woman, oh, well, why don't you like toxic men? She might be able to go in and tell you why, and then you might be able to help her solve that problem. Or if she says, oh, you're doing this, that's masculine, and I don't like it, well, you can maybe try and figure out what you actually are doing wrong. But taking time to understand why and understand their perspective would just help us all, women included in that, of understand why as men we do what we do. Don't shut us down straight away. And another one that's entered the dictionary, mansplaining. How else are we going to explain it?
Could you just explain that to me?
Yeah, mate, you're going to have to explain that. Can you explain what you mean?
So, exactly. It's like mansplaining is like when we overcomplicate what we're saying to someone. All we're trying to do is just help give you the full picture, the full narrative of what we're saying.
That used to be called logic.
Yeah, used to be.
Oh, you mean men are trying to communicate more after 10 years of being told we don't communicate enough?
And then we get shut down for communicating.
You bang on, Jamie.
Just leave me alone. Why don't we go back to that?
We've mentioned the word equality a fair bit so far. I want to stick on the word equality for a minute. Do you think in this series that we're in, the war on masculinity, do you think that it's actually a war on masculinity about equality? Like, is it women trying to seek equality, or do you think it is a genuine attack on men and trying to control men?
I think people are lost. I think people don't know
direction.
What they want, and I think that it's happened with women stepping into a more masculine role and yearning for having that masculinity but not wanting to let go of. They don't feel safe enough to be able to do it. So, we're living in an era that we didn't create, but the people before us are living in an era that they didn't create, and all we can do is the best that we possibly can, which is why we're talking about this. So hopefully it helps some people and actually step into different roles, where part of it is like, as you were saying, is that, we should sort of listen and, but I think that is part of the problem, is that people are trying to change to please other people rather than going, this is me and this is what I believe. Yeah. And I just want to find someone who believes the same sort of stuff or is okay with me believing that. Yeah, the same way as I'm okay with her believing what they believe. You know, so I think that is part of the problem where we've been taught that everyone has to be perfect, but it's not actually the case. You're it's going to sound so. You're perfect just the way you are. You know what I mean?
So feminine.
Can we play some music on the back of that, please, when we edit?
Yeah. But what I mean by that is that the reason why we don't have masculine men out there is because they have the urge to be more masculine and they're holding it back and they feel lost. So
Okay, so it brings about another question I'm thinking of then. You look at this masculinity in men being a natural evolution, like I said before, boys becoming men. So it's men desiring to be masculine. The problem we're finding is a bit of a misbalance when it comes to equality. Do you think then it's because women have stepped up to masculine roles, or do you think it's because men have stepped away from masculine roles?
Both.
Okay, so let's stick at one then. We'll start with the stepping away. Why have men stepped away from masculine roles?
We've been asked to. Like, that's kind of wasn't our choice in any way, but we're saying we want equality. Like, same, if I wanted to go for a job at Energex, if I didn't tick certain boxes, say I was a female or identify as this or something like that, my chances will go down because they have to hit this quota of equality. Same in politics and sport and plenty of other things where you've just been told, all right, you got to hit this. So even if you're way overqualified, if you don't tick that box of you're the other gender and things aren't equal within a company, it's just not going to progress. It's just, you get stuck. Like, so there's blokes there that deserve the opportunity that won't get the opportunity. So they'll just stay at, oh, shit, I'm one of those guys that just didn't make it in the first run.
Yeah,
I'll
you're
stay there now.
encouraged to be radical or get left behind.
Yeah. And then the race just...
But it's only a
goes on.
small percentage of people, right? Like, we talk about all of this, and I kind of go, there would be women that listen to this and go, I'm none of what you've described on this podcast. And likewise men. Like, I think a lot of what we hear on the media, you know, when we talk about the women that throw, or people that throw around toxic masculinity, you could also probably generalise them as being the ones with funny coloured hair turning up at the Free Palestine protest, that kind of thing. Like, they're just unhappy with everything in the world. Wouldn't matter what it is, they're just unhappy. But we sit here and go, why are we justifying ourselves to these people? Yeah. You don't even know what you are. How can you even begin to judge what I am?
Well,
Yes,
I think very well put.
Yeah, I think it's 2 points with that. Is that half the time it is the media, and it's not because it's what they believe. It's because it's going to sell more views. It's going to get more advertising, and that is part of the problem. So rather than telling people what we should be uniting about and what is good, you know, we're told about all the problems, and then people have the conversation going, "Can you believe this? Can you believe that?" And then because it's more popular, they sell more advertising. They sell more advertising. They make more money. Yeah. So, but the other thing is came up for me is the book that you put me on, which is Love and Respect. Yeah. It's where women want to be loved and men want respect. Yeah. Now, you doing the right thing and you being masculine and all the rest of it, the respect isn't lost. Is lost. You're respected probably silently. But it's like when you do a really good job about something, with something, and no one tells you, do you really know that you did a good job? So those men aren't respected anymore. So we've had conversations about, you know, what really needs to happen is, you know, there needs to be some form of when teenagers become men, there needs to be, what's it called again?
Rites of passage.
There needs to be a rite of passage, because there needs to be that point where they are actually respected as a man now. Do you know?
Yeah.
Say it.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
When you're talking a lot of respect, on that point, because it's very important, it ties in what you're saying. The love that a woman desperately wants, but respect that the man desperately needs. And there's a massive difference between the two, because the woman wanting so badly and desiring to be loved, but men with the need and the necessity to be respected, the difference between the want and the need, and how we survive and thrive and work upon respect compared to because it's a need, It's a necessity. Whereas what women are wanting is to be loved. That's why they search for love. We need it. They want it. And that's not in a disrespectful way. It's just the functioning of how
women
respect
are
works.
starting to want respect, though, right? Like
Well, this is, you're right.
because have we weaponized an entire generation of women by telling them that men don't respect them? Because when we talk about equality and we will talk about all the differences, the fundamentals are men and women are equal of value as humans,
But valued
right?
differently.
But we behave very differently and we have different strengths. So we just take it to this place where, well, for us to be equal, we both have to be able to, earn the same playing professional sports or whatever it is. It's not, again, like we said the other week, well, why don't men earn the same on OnlyFans? Do men even have OnlyFans accounts? Like, it's just a very weird way that we've put it, where we just highlight areas that really women can't compete in. And that's what you need equality in. Why?
Sounds like the roles are getting a little bit blurred. Yeah. No one knows what their role is anymore.
It is, because I think for everything that we've said on this panel, does anyone think that women are less than men? Do we think they're less equal? Are they of any less value?
Not at all.
No.
If anything, we would say that women are of more value than us.
Well,
In our behaviours, that's exactly what we do, right? We put women first. So a real man is the man that will actually put women of value above them. So we're saying you're worth more than us.
It's so interesting you said that, because when you look at, again, one of the three things that we talk about, protect, provide, and lead, one of the utmost natural traits of a masculine man is to protect. Like, it's one of the ones that it's at the forefront, right? For us to protect, it's not so much, we'll go into battle and punch the bloke out for you. For us to step into that battle to begin with, we are prepared to put our lives on the line and literally lay down our life and put our life at risk for the woman.
Yep.
So the even notion of us disrespecting women or not loving women enough, and take it back to one of the core masculine things within man. We will go to battle on the very notion that we know that we could die, we'd still go. So does that make us look like we devalue women?
Yep.
No, we value you more than we value ourselves. Because if it came down to, hey, look, there's one bullet in here, I'm going to shoot me. That's what a masculine trait is. So to answer your question, it's literally flipped it on its head. Society has made us and women have done it, but society in general have done it, and men have allowed it, where we've seen that misbalance on saying, we don't respect women, we don't love women, we're better than women, or we value women less. It's the actual opposite. We value them so much that when it comes to a life or death situation, we're prepared for it to be death for us. So it flips the whole thing on its head. It just goes to show that this whole misbalance is so ridiculous. It's stupid. The fact that we have to talk about it to try and bring some clarity to it in itself is stupid.
Jeez, we got through a 12-part series pretty quick, didn't we?
So wrap it up there.
Yeah. I think that's like the most important thing, though, is that we keep having these conversations, because like you said before, Jamie, if we're not doing it, it's the advertisement people that are selling that narrative still. If our voices aren't as loud as those companies that are pushing this narrative, that's who people are going to take their advice from. Mm-hmm. So it is our job to have an Average Joe's podcast. It's everyone else's job to maybe go out and start their own podcast, have these conversations within your workplace, all of that. Push the narrative away from what you're being told, because what you're being told is a blurred line. It changes every week. They don't have the same media headline twice, kind of thing. It's always changing. Whereas what we talk about and what we say will stay the same. It's consistent, and you can listen to it and we can improve on it. We can go deeper into our conversations and actually start to understand it. But it's who you take your advice from. I'm not saying that we've got it figured out. I've absolutely got no idea. I'm only 21. But listen to a human, not a piece of paper or a 30-second TikTok reel that you've just seen. That's not where you take your advice from. That's never where we've been taking advice from.
Yep.
It's like,
Unless it's from Average Joe's.
Yeah. Got to take
that's
that
right.
30-second reels.
When you look at feminism, right, it's the empowerment and the strengthening of all these things about women, right? They call it a feminist movement and things like that. So they're empowering women, pushing women to become stronger and take on these traits, but yet they're exactly the same traits that they disqualify and depower men of. They don't like it when men display strength and leadership and that. And because they don't, they then start this feminist movement. And yet the feminist movement itself encourages women to take on those traits themselves, the very traits they disqualify men for. Why? Why the case?
I think they all keep harping back on to the generations before us where women couldn't vote and other things. And they almost, it's like the sins of the father, hey? Like we're paying for what happened 100 years ago. And we do have to apologise for a lot of things, right? Like we still expect our nation's leader to stand up every year on Australia Day and apologise for what happened to generations past. Nothing of what happens today, but we have to apologise for it. We have to pay reparations.
We're not understanding the context of what was going on back then. Like the world's improved. We've gotten so much better at life in general that the context back then was your job was clear. Like you knew what you had to do in order to evolve and improve as a society.
Is that the problem though? Has life gotten so easy now that this is what we worry about?
Yep.
We worry about who's more equal, who can, let's unpack what a woman is, what gender is. Well, we didn't have that luxury 100 years ago, did we? Because we felt like we were lucky if we just made it to 50.
It's true.
You were lucky if your wife survived childbirth at some point. You were lucky if your kids lived to be 2 or 5. So many people wouldn't have ever become grandparents. Now our biggest worry is, the gender pay gap and, which gender? There's 92 of them now. Which gender are we equalising? There's going to be a lot of editing today. Shit.
And that's part of the thing, though, is that feminism wasn't a bad thing, but it probably went too far.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, same as, treating people equally is a good thing, yeah? But when one person has more view than the rest, that's not a good thing. And right now, more minorities have more power and more sway, as you were saying, than the average Joe.
Well done. Nicely tied in.
Thank you very much. But, and this is where the problem lies, is that rather than being unified, and actually working together and actually being able to have conversations and going, okay, what is right and what is wrong? These lines just keep getting blurred. And then as soon as someone has an opportunity to take advantage, they go for all they can get type thing. So, and, I don't think there's always going to be ebbs and flows. There's always going to be ups and downs. But without people actually saying, hey, this isn't right, and how far it's gone is too far, it's not going to start resetting. You know what I mean? It wasn't until the feminist movement that it started moving in the right direction. And it wasn't like even unions these days, where you're like going, cool, back in the day where people were getting taken advantage of, absolutely unions needed to be put there. But now that they're actually blocking down whole cities and stuff like that for something that they don't need, and most of the money goes to corrupt people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I'm not here next week, you know why. Maybe that's a bit too far, and there is a reset in place there. So I don't think feminism was a bad thing, but I think that toxic masculinity or this attack on masculinity is a bad thing right now. So maybe... we can't control what's happened in the past. We only can control what's happening forward, just the same way as that we can't control how other people react to us. All we can do is control the way that we react to others. And that is part of being masculine, is being strong enough in yourself to be able to control your emotions, control your actions, and control the outcomes to go, I'm not going to take it too far. So
if looking at masculinity again, if masculinity is so bad, you look at some of the things around the world, doesn't matter what it is, sports. I was actually chatting to Mike today because Lisa and I are about to head off to Japan for our anniversary. And I was saying how we've booked these restaurants, and to book these restaurants, you've got to pay in advance. Now, in searching of these restaurants, I wanted to go to a Japanese restaurant that had a chef's hat, like a Michelin star style thing, right? To give her the experience. Oh, this just ties in exactly what I'm saying. Like, I'm wanting to give this to her as a provider. I want her to take her to something spectacular that she'll remember. Anyway, and leading into it, you've got to pay before you go. Now, looking at all the photos of all these top-tiered restaurants, we jokingly as men and society, Western culture or whatever culture it is, we jokingly go, oh, you know, women in the kitchen, that's where they belong. And we have a bit of a laugh about it because it carries a joke. In reality, though, you look at every top chef around the world, they're men. True or not true? Am I spitting facts here or am I just making this up? I'm not. You look at any photo of all these restaurants I'm going to, all these top-ranked chefs are men. So if the masculine traits within men are to lead and compete and have that kind of resilience, if it's so bad and you want to strip that away, why are men so dominant in so many areas around the world? Why are we? Why are we so dominant?
Perfecting our skill set. It's what we've always done. You're a brickie, you be the best brickie out there. Or you're a carpenter, you be the best carpenter out there. But chefs, yes, they cook the best meal, but nothing compares to that meal that your mum made. Everyone's got that one meal that's in your memory bank of.
I think these Japanese chefs are going to be able to put a few of those.
Yeah, they will, but like you know what I mean. Like everyone's got the homely feeling of having a home cooked meal, and everyone's got one of those. It's a different experience to going out and experience this fancy restaurant, but you might get that home cooked meal once a week. Like that's.
I'm just saying the majority of any field, right? Pick any field. The majority of those fields are dominated not by men because men are domineering, but they're dominating because men have become the best at it. Is that saying that men are better than women? In some cases it is. And why is that a bad thing? Why is that labelled toxic? You compete two world-class chefs in the world, and you compete them. One's a male, one's female, which is what all these restaurants have done, which is why head chefs are male. It doesn't mean that men are better. It just means that what these men do seem to have better skill set or a better drive. Or why is that seen as toxic then when they dominate?
Well,
why is it bad?
Well, I don't think it is bad. And I actually think that a lot of people out there appreciate. Look, who's the most recognised, celebrated chef going around? Who would you say?
Gordon. Around here? Mons? It'd be
No,
for sure.
in the world.
It's got to be Gordon, right?
Gordon.
Nigella Lawson.
Gordon.
Different reasons.
Gordon Ramsay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, would you consider him masculine?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. He doesn't take shit. He swears. He gets things happen. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not beating up his chefs that we can see.
On camera.
On camera.
Come out of the cool room with
A steak on his eye. Yeah.
Yes, chef.
But the point is, though, he is celebrated, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's liked. He's celebrated.
Can't say yes, chef with a broken jaw, can you?
And he's masculine.
You're bang on right, Jamie. You're spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So potentially, I think sometimes, well, it's coming to my thought process where I'm going, you know, maybe the problem isn't as big as what we think it is. Maybe just the voices out there and who's saying it is the problem.
Yeah.
That's a really good thought, mate. I think you're spot on, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think the voice is coming mainly from the movement itself, not so much the individuals within the movement. It's, all right, here's the movement, guys. Here's our narrative. Everyone go preach that. It's not what everyone within the movement's talking about. It's that one narrative that 100,000 people push.
Yeah. It's a popularity contest where they're like, oh, I can't go against what they're saying because I'll get put
Or
over
I
the
won't
coals.
fit in that group anymore. Yeah.
It's funny that you talk about, men and women in jobs. You look at just this week in social media, the female tradie who says she should be allowed to go topless on site, just like the men do.
I didn't say this.
And you go, yeah, I didn't read the article. I looked at the pictures very quickly and just moved on.
And voted yes.
I was like, yes, she should. Yeah, I mean, there's other criteria as to whether that's a yes or no. But why do we take it to such stupid places of equality? Like this one lady wants to push further and go, yeah, well, it's not good enough for me to be on the job site, earning the same as the other guys, doing the same job. I now want to be able to go topless like you too. I mean, there's obvious reasons why you shouldn't go topless. Productivity is going to go very, very downhill very quickly, isn't it? If the 25-year-old
But in reality,
lady with
yeah.
double D cups rocks up on site. And you don't want to get those caught in a sore either.
You thought a
Might
thumb in
bust
the
it.
nail was bad.
Should have picked this panel a little bit better.
Yeah. It's true, though. I mean, literally, that is in the news right now. I've seen the article 5 times today.
You're going to get off the news.
You keep sending the link to yourself, that's why.
Yeah, I know. It's just there. Printed it.
I want to go back real quickly to Jamie when you were talking about mental health for a minute there, right? Because I think we touched on this the other day, but I was looking at some more stats today. You look at these recent, say, 20 to 30 years, let's say 20, the decline in masculine men, the crushing of masculinity within younger boys, the decline in getting young boys and young men to embrace an authentic, positive, real masculinity. The decline in that at the same time has seen the increase in depressions and all these, anxieties and all these mental health issues that men face. At the same time that we have seen a decline in masculinity, we've seen an incline in all those same mental health issues.
Which is when we're reading that stuff before, it said one of the traits of toxic masculinity is mental health and depression and rah-rah. And I call bullshit on that. I think it's the total opposite. I think when you're having mental health issues is when you don't know who you are. Like there's stuff out there where yes, sometimes you've got a chemical imbalance and but that's always been the case. How bad it's got is because men aren't men anymore and their support networks aren't there. And yes, talking about it and speaking up is a good thing, but also being a bloody good bloke who's listening and helping your mate out and being by his side and having his back is the missing link. You don't need to, it's not about someone just saying, this is how I'm feeling. It's about the guy going, I know, mate, I can see why that's happening, but let me tell you, you're a top bloke and I've got your back. I think that is what needs to be instilled in men, where we've got each other's back again. We're a team that's working together to make people to make men better and holding men accountable.
I think one of the dangers in what you're saying though is that we say every bloke's a top bloke when sometimes they're not a top bloke. And
True.
I think sometimes calling a bloke a top bloke when he's not says that he can stay where he is in life.
Correct.
And I think that's one of the problems.
Yeah.
We're stop bullshitting to our mates. If he's not a top bloke, you need to call him out, like you've said many times. It's the guys that need to be called out and go, mate, you're actually being a douche. Become a top bloke. So then when you do call him, because I think throwing that phrase around flippantly allows men to go, oh, well, if the way I act and the way I do this makes me a top bloke, I don't need to change. And that's one of the dangers I think we can all fall into.
Yep.
Fellas, final thoughts. Toxic masculinity, does it exist? Is it real? What's your thoughts? Let's wrap it up. Jamie, final thoughts, buddy.
Mate, I think if you're coming from a place where you're trying to better people and help people, then you're coming from the right place being with that masculinity. That's, if you're there to help, your family, you're there to help your partner, you're there to help your friends, and you're doing that through being a masculine man, then there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. Yeah. I think that if you're only thinking about things for yourself and you don't give a shit about anyone, and it's all a power play, and you're utilizing some of the advantages that you have to be able to get that, then you could say that that could be toxic masculinity, but I could also say that you're an asshole. So,
On that too, just understanding, like you're basically saying that for a man to understand his own motivation and his own agenda behind why he displays masculine traits, you can lie to so many people and have them believe you for so long, but you can't lie to yourself. The moment you lie to yourself and you have to bullshit to yourself, that in itself is outside of a masculine trait. And I think you're spot on, mate. I think any man understanding his motivation and agenda and keeping it pure, embrace that. Don't let the world crush that. You got to embrace that. Mikey, final thoughts, buddy?
Mate, I think it's all just divide and conquer. We're just picking another thing to separate everyone and let other things go on. I think we need to come back together, celebrate our differences, as it were. There's a good video about that as well. Google it. If you need to, Google celebrate our differences. But no, we should, right? We should all actually...
We actually should celebrate our different... You bang on.
We should, and that video is done in a jokey way. I didn't make it, in case you're wondering. But no,
You've sent it quite a few times.
I have. And I think that's okay too, right? No, look, I think we just need to come back together as men, as people. We need to celebrate the fact that men want to protect women, and I think we should celebrate that there is now plenty of women, and always has been, women that can look after themselves. But I think if we all just come together and work on the bits that actually unite us and stop focusing on these tiny little nonsenses and all the bits we don't have, be happy with what we've got and then strive for more, instead of going from this pace of discomfort, dissatisfaction, aggression. It's just, what's the point? If you're not happy with what you got now, you're never going to be happy with where you end up, which is eventually, if we keep going down this road, it's going to be communism, right? There's no other which way to put it. That's what it is. So, yeah, I'll stop now. And for the record, I think there's nothing more masculine than putting on a ballet suit and riding 3 deep into traffic, blocking us all on the highway. That's very brave.
It does show bravery when you think
It does.
It is.
Almost bordering on stupidity.
Toby, final thoughts, buddy?
Absolutely. I think that the narrative of toxic masculinity needs to come to an end, and it comes to an end from the people creating an end to it. Like, we don't need to keep talking about it. It's real. It's been pushed on us, but that's enough now. We need to... The path that we've paved might be a little bit dark. We've all worried about that, but it's about the next steps that we take forward. And if we're not happy with what men are doing, give them the opportunities, show them what roles they need to go for. If you have a man in your life and you don't know how you can encourage him, just ask him to go and do something. Give him a job to do. Like, I think having just opportunities in front of you, go take some risks. If you're a young bloke and you can't find your way, just go and do something that you've never done before. A good way that I started was just go camping. Go to the pub. Go talk to an old fella. Go hear someone's stories. I think that's the best way of just figuring out where we've all gone wrong, and then finding yourself again. Is just go and just talk to people. Get off the internet. Have a break from it for a week. Delete Instagram. Delete TikTok. You won't have those messages chucked in your face anymore, and we can all just kind of move on without worrying about this path that we've paved over how many years of me being alive. It's been going on a lot longer, but it's all I've ever heard is there's something wrong. I mean, like you said, just be happy where we are and take the next step. And I think we all just need to get happy about where we are, because we live in a pretty blessed country.
Certainly do. Yeah, well, I want to wrap it up with a couple of things, I guess. I guess I'll go back to my very first thought where I think the terminology of toxic masculinity in my mind has been debunked. I think it's absolutely stupid that those words even go together. I think masculinity is healthy. I think it needs to be embraced by any man. I'll even go as far to say, I mean, the 3 things that we always talk about: protect, provide, and to lead. So you look at the masculine traits of a man to lay down his life for you. I'm thinking from the perspective of a woman. If I'm a lady out there that has a man, you've got a man that is willing to lay down his life for you. A man that is prepared to give you anything and everything he can possibly get his hand on. and every decision he makes has you at the forefront. You've got a protector, a provider, and a leader. If you're a woman out there and you've got a man and you're not pushing him to become masculine, I think you're the idiot. I think you're the stupid one. You've got a man that is willing to lay down his life, give anything and everything he can for you, and make every decision with you in mind. If you're not pushing your man to become more masculine, you're the problem. I think you're the idiot. And I'll leave it at that. Gents, I appreciate you once again joining me on the panel. Fellas, thanks for joining us here at the Men's Collective podcast with the Average Joes. Like I say, jump on the website, see where all of our meetups are, get along to the meetup, make some mates, get along to the weekly topic. You'll see we discuss like this in all of our groups all the way around. Grab some merch. Things like merch keeps us going here. Big shout out once again to our sponsors. If you're interested in sponsoring our show and being a partner with us, jump aboard. Fellas, once again, thanks again.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, mate. Glad we managed to change your mind, eh?
Thanks, guys.